Hello everyone, I am super excited we are here together and I am sure a lot of you are asking the question, where is the money? Now let me explain what I mean by that and how this is intrinsically related to career goal setting. A lot of young people, when they begin their career, one of their main goals, if not the main goal, is to make money. This was my goal. I think this goal is admirable. I believe it's a very valid goal. And everyone who is telling you, oh, you should not be thinking about making money in the beginning of your career, doesn't know what it's like to be in your shoes. So in this video, I will try to answer the question, where is the money, but linked to goal setting. Before I begin, I would like to remind that we have a separate video on earnability, your ability to earn, in level 3, your career as a project. So if you go to level 3, you're going to have a specific video on building financial freedom when you're at the beginning of your career with little resources and little experiences. Now, let's start by telling you the story of one of the young people I worked with. He started as my coachee. I will call him Ivan, although this is not his real name. So Ivan started as my coaching. Because he had skills I could use, later on in the years, he was also my marketing intern and he was helping me with some events and some ads. Ivan was one of those young people whose main goal was financial freedom. When we started working together, he was studying entrepreneurship and business. A nice college degree which doesn't give you a lot of concrete and specific skills, and he didn't have clarity. We started the process and he was like, I don't care about my ideal me, like let's skip this and move right to how I make money. Now, Ivan was a really ambitious fellow, someone with excellent communication skills, and I believe he had something that very few young people have, and that's the perseverance to push through any challenge. So we started working, and of course the question was, how do I start? You may have heard of passive and active income, and a lot of young people want to start having passive income, and that's great. However, in order to have passive income, money that you invest to make money, you need to have active income first. When we started working with Ivan, he did some trading. Honestly, he did quite well on his trading. He also did some crypto deals, and I don't recommend that you do this because he spent a lot of time studying. I think he was putting like at least 10 hours a week in studying how to do that, and he was the risk type personality, so I don't recommend that you do that. But he was doing that, so he had some sort of a passive income, not enough. And then we started working on active income, meaning being a freelancer or having a job. Now, not to bore you with all the details of the story, Ivan did have some nice jobs. He also tried to work as freelance marketer and salesperson, but I felt like something was missing and he felt that something was missing. And I knew what was missing. This was the earnability, the skill set, the expertise, the foundation that you build on. Ivan wanted to skip the whole part with getting to a position where he gains skills, when he learns something, when he makes connection, and he wanted to go right to the top. I'm not saying that this is not possible. It is possible, and it does happen for some young people who previously have worked a lot on their skills. We had one such participant in our programs. It was a girl who was absolutely into coding, and she started her own startup when she was 18, but I think she started coding the moment she got her first computer, which was like, I don't know, when she was 7. So the point is, before you go to that place where you can have passive income, where you have good active income, you need to build your foundation, your earnability, your skill set, your mindset, your daily routine, which will generate financial freedom for you. And that's the part that a lot of young people skip. And I think it's not their fault. The pop culture and the self-help culture tells you that you don't have to go through the motion. You don't have to go through the steps. You can directly go to success. However, we've seen countless memes which show that success is not a linear process. And if we go back to Ivan, he did have one occasion in which he was working for a recently founded startup. He was making a lot of money, probably even more than myself. However, the startup didn't fly, so after a year and a half, they closed. And then Ivan spent quite some time without having a job. So it's ups and downs. What I want to help you do here is not skip the ups and downs, but build that foundation that will catapult you to higher and higher places, to places which pay more, to places which you have more joy. Why did we even call this whole program and this methodology Catapult Your Career? Because in over 3,000 participants, I've seen that there are ways in which early on in your career you can get to a place which catapults you. And that's what I want to help you do today. Up until now, we have barely mentioned money and making money. And as I've said, we are going to dedicate quite a lot of time to the topic in level 3. But here I would like to make the connection between everything that we've discussed so far and the topic that we are going to dive in, setting and achieving your goal to making money. Your identity drives your actions. I have worked with some entrepreneurs which are also featured in this program in the free video in our YouTube channel. And I can tell you that all of them work out super hard at the gym or fitness. All of them are voracious learners. And honestly, for most of them, I couldn't keep up with their routine because I have less level of testosterone. And by the way, in level 3, we're also going to discuss what are some ways which are more appropriate for girls and boys to pursue goals so that they don't burn out. But bottom line, every rich person, every person who drove a Porsche, and yes, I was working for one person who drove a Porsche, he was my boss for 6 months. Every person who owns a big mansion at certain point built that identity of confidence, of action, even of compassion, of depth, of learning, which drove them to their success. So identity, it's a big part of success. Your dream career and your vision, it's also a big part of success. But what is an even bigger part of success, and I have mentioned throughout this program many times because it's crucial, it's progressing towards your goal. When we speak about money, but also when we speak about success, there is one thing which is very important, and that's the compound effect. I'm going to have a very short video separate on the compound effect because I believe it's important and I believe you should watch it separately. But here what I will say is the compound effect looks in such way that when you make incremental action at the beginning, you have slow progress, but then over time, you get a very, very high in your pursuit. So the point is, when you start making actions towards your goal and you adjust your actions so that if you're doing something that doesn't bring results, you quit doing it and you start doing something that brings results, over time, it's going to go like this. And here is a personal example. When I started my coaching business, at the beginning, I just had one certification. Now I have more than 7. And I had little skills and little clients. And so I focused on one single thing, and that was improving my coaching skills. Even though I had already completed all the required hours to get my certification, I made a commitment to do 3 free coaching hours each week. I was part of study buddy groups where people were giving me feedback. I also made a commitment to read 1 book related to career coaching or personal effectiveness each month. So at the beginning, things looked like this. Yes, I did have some clients. I also had my full-time job. It was not such a big deal. But then the clients that were happy started recommending more clients. Some clients who were executive started inviting me to consult and train their employees in their company. Some of my clients had successful startups, so they were inviting me as a consultant in their startup. So at the beginning, it was like this. And then suddenly it went like this. And up until the day, I almost don't run ads and I almost don't do pretty much anything because 90% of my business comes from referrals. This might sound like it was such an easy job, but trust me, in the beginning, it was excruciating. Before each coaching session, I was so worried if I was going to do well. although I know as a coach that all the focus should go to the client and not to myself. So learning all these coaching skills, all this mindset, completely refrain from my personal feelings and how I was feeling, and being able to be 100% present here and now for the client, developing the tools, developing the programs, developing the other things that I was cross-selling and upselling. It was a very, very hard process. There was one time when I actually decided I wanted to give up. Why? Very simple reason. I didn't have many clients, and I felt that most of my clients were not even progressing. And I know that a lot of coaches would never admit that, but I would have, let's say, 10 clients in total for the month, or even less, maybe 8 or 7, and only one of them would achieve their goals. I was ready to give up, and then I think this was either coincidence or providence, but one of my clients, who was one of the laziest, made some progress. He didn't achieve his goal, but he made a progress. And I decided to stay, and I read one more book, and I went to one more course, and suddenly I started seeing all the missing pieces. Why people were not achieving their goals? What are all the missing pieces? I would have 10 clients a month, 20 clients a month, and 80% of them would start achieving their goals. So this is the compound effect. When you start making actions, but you also improve on your action, you get to a point where you have succeeded. And it's same with money. At the beginning, I was charging very little for my services. Now I charge much more, but I also have many more clients, and I have many products which sell on autopilot. I have seen many ads which tell you that with artificial intelligence, you don't need to have expertise to create a book or a product. Trust me, this could be true, but in my experience, I have never seen this. Your expertise is the foundation that catapults you to creating anything that's successful, because you need to be able to prompt the AI, and you need to be able to understand whether the AI is giving you the right input. All right, I know this was a long introduction, but I hope that by now you understand that everything we're doing here is a step-by-step process towards your earnability and towards you creating a career or business that you love. Today, we're going to focus on goals and on making consistent actions towards your goals. Now, making consistent actions towards your goals is probably the second biggest challenge that I have noticed young people face. You know what's the first one? Starting action. A lot of young people have troubles to start action, to even begin. And you can overcome this with the starting protocol and with all the rituals and protocols we have in this program. And the second challenge is to stay in action, because before it goes up, there's a flat line, and this flat line might continue for a month, for a year. I don't think it should continue for more than a year, because I was building my business prior to the AI era and prior to having all the knowledge that I have now. So the compound effect starts like this, and then it goes up. And right now, in the next video, what I will do is I will walk you through the process of making sure you have formulated and set your goal in a way that you can achieve it. And also, I will walk you through the steps of having a system to make consistent action towards your goal, but also to make tiny improvements. Make sure you have a pen or paper or your guidebook, and in the next video, we are going to build the system for you to achieve your goal.